Hi guys, today I'm going to do a review on our Honda Fourtrax 300 4x4s and our two-wheel drive ones because we've actually had a few of the 300 Fourtraxes. So the first one that we have is a 1992 Honda Fourtrax 300, and that was a two-wheel drive. And my grandpa bought it in 1993 when it was only 1 year old from the Honda dealership. And that thing's been an amazing four-wheeler for over the years. My grandpa actually went 10 years without changing the engine oil on it. And us kids, we rotted the piss out of it. So, a lot of people say, oh, Hondas are minimum maintenance machines. We used to joke around, we called it the zero maintenance machine. It was just good all those years. I do remember at one point, my grandpa did have trouble, the starter didn't work. And at that time, none of us kids had gone to school for mechanics or nothing. He took it into the dealership and he claimed they replaced the starter, I think. And he brought it home and it lasted like 2 weeks. And then it quit working. He's like, well, I'm not sticking more money into it. And it was probably the solenoid or something. We never have fixed it to this day. We just started kickstarting it. We pulled off the right-hand plastic cover so you get the Kickstarter. And that's how we went for years and just never, I'm sure the battery went bad years ago. And even with the Kickstarter, we got it started during the winter time. It could be cold as heck. That four-wheeler started good. And us kids would do jumps with it. Well, not necessarily me. I'd be there, but my two brothers did all the time. And they'd pop wheelies with it and everything. They'd pull up on the shifter and pop it. And it definitely was not good for the transmission. Because I remember at one point, Grandpa did have shifting problems with it. So he took it into the Honda dealership. And they pulled off the cover. And they fixed it or whatever, and he brought it back home from the dealer, and we're like, Grandpa, what was wrong with it? And he's like, nothing was broken. He's like, the mechanic just pulled off the cover and he put it all back together, and nothing was broken, and it worked when he put it back together, and it's been working ever since. So yeah, they can take a lot of abuse there. The four-wheeler did suck in the snow though. It had the wide turf tires, and I mean, they weren't bald or nothing, but had the square treads or whatever. Like you would buy those from the factory, just like the Honda ATC three-wheelers had on them back in the day too. And with those big fat tires on it from the factory, if you were going through 4 inches of snow out in a summer follow field, you were stuck. But that thing's so light, you could get off and give a gas, and you'd be pushing on the back handlebar at the same time and get it out of the field. But yeah, they're definitely not meant for snow. And then after that, my mom and stepdad, they actually ended up buying a 1996 Honda Fourtrax 300 4x4, and it was the green one. And I think they bought I'm not even sure what year they bought it, probably around like 98, so it's probably 2 years old. And had the big windshield on it, and I think they even had a speedometer on it. And man, that was fun because it was our first time getting into a four-wheel drive four-wheeler in our lives. And we lived out east, and there we had tons of sloughs and stuff out there. But we rarely took it out into the mud because we were always worried that we wouldn't have something pull it out, if we got way too far out there. So then my mom and stepdad ended up buying a 1988 Honda Fourtrax 300 two-wheel drive, and we paid I believe we paid $1,600 for it at that time when I was in high school. And we would go play and whip shitties out there in the sloughs with that. And then when we get that stuck, we pull that out with the four-wheel drive one. But yeah, that four-wheel drive, I don't suggest getting that Honda windshield for the front because it's a plastic kind of poly windshield, and the mud gets kicked up on them, so you can't see anything. And you try and wipe off the mud, and they get so scuffed up on that plastic that you'll pretty much never be able to see out of it anyway. So you pretty much ride around kind of standing up to see over that windshield. So yeah, I won't do that there. So yeah, once my parents divorced or whatever, we left those other four-wheelers out east. We came back to live with my grandparents. And that four-wheeler, in the end, my cousin, he left it outside for like 6 years without them starting. I do remember that he said the ignition coil went out on it. So my brother just stole the ignition coil out of one of our other, it was like a go-kart on the farm. It didn't even match perfectly, but he got to work. He took it out for a ride, and then it sat for a few more years. And actually, I think that was the last time it had been started or whatever, and it was left outside for 6 years, so nobody touched it from then. And I went there and I went to go check the engine oil, and it was on AOD, or no, it was on the full mark. My grandpa's four-wheeler, amazingly, that thing has never had any oil leak issues on it. And all of our lives of owning that thing, we never checked the rear diff fluid in it either, so it's never been opened. And it's just kept going. Yeah, I would suggest buying one. I guess if you like two-wheel drives, I kind of like the 4x4 thing where you're just kind of idling around. And now here, my mom, she just bought a 1995 Honda Fourtrax 300 four-wheel drive, the red one, in mint condition. She found it on Facebook Marketplace, and she paid $800 for it. And I was just amazed that was that good of a deal. I called up the guy, and I said, "Can you hold it up, or hold it until tomorrow until I get out of class?" I had my sociology class here in college. And he's like, "Yeah, since you're driving so far, I'll hold it for you." And I drove down there, and it was just beautiful. But it had, so like I said, it was well taken care of, but it needed maintenance. It ran good and everything. It had no rear brakes on it. At first, it almost seemed like the clutch was slipping on it, because I took it out here, and I'm not even sure what the temperature was. Pretty darn cold that day. And the thing about it is it had been so many years since I've driven a Honda 300 4x4. I've been so used to this Honda Rancher 420. And it made me think about this stuff here. Well, actually, I'll get back to that a little bit here. So yeah, I took it out for a drive, and I took it down a steep ditch, and there was snow on it, and I went ahead and I spun it, and I knew that they're only three-wheel drive four-wheelers, because I remember with our old 96 four-wheel drive that we had one time, I tried pushing a big round bale with it. I was like, I'm going to see how tough this thing is and try and actually roll a freaking round bale. And only 3 tires spun. One of the front tires wasn't spinning. And I talked to one of my buddies, because I was still in high school at that time, and him and his family were big into Hondas, and they had all the four-wheel drives, like the Foremans and stuff like that. And he's like, actually, I think that they're meant to do that. They have like an open differential. And now looking back, I did some research, and they do have an open differential on the Hondas. So, so yeah, getting back to my mom's here, I was taking it out for the test drive there, and I got up on this really straight up and down hill, and I spun the tires, and sure as heck, only 3 tires spun. And I took it out for a ride a little bit more, and I think that the engine just needed to warm up so I could get more RPMs out of it and everything. And then after that, it was running good. Took it up to the guy, and I was like, I'll take it. So I paid him the $800 Mom had sent with me, and took it home that night. And it was like -4 degrees out by the time I got home. And it tried to crank, but just barely slow, just very slowly. So my mom put her a booster charger on it, and we didn't use any ether. Just the booster charger was enough, and we were able to pop it off and drive into the heated garage where she keeps that 60 degrees. And the next morning, I checked all the fluids on it, saw what all parts I needed to order for it, and I took it out for a test drive because we just gotten some snow, and I think we got around 8 inches or something, and I took it down a really deep ditch, and I put it in first gear, and it was pushing snow. Second gear was pushing snow, and as soon as I would shift into third gear, it would just fall flat on its face and come to a complete stop. And so I just left it in second gear, and I was just dozing snow, and then I was whipping shitties out in a field, and that was probably, a lot of that was probably like 4 inches of snow, maybe a little bit more, and it did really good there. And then I got in a really deep ditch where it must have been up to about to the top of the handlebars. And I'd start out on the bottom, and I'd go halfway up the ditch, and it would come to a stop, and I would just doze the snow, and I'd back up, and I dozed it like 2 or 3 times, and it came right out of there. I was like, man, this thing's amazing. Then coming down from the mailbox down to my mom's house, I was just running at full RPM because I wanted to see how fast it would go, even though it doesn't have a speedometer or anything on it. Ran it up, just try and get it warmed up. And I came back into the house with it, and I told my mom, I was like, I didn't realize these are so slow. After we all moved up to the 420s, it was a game changer because now looking back, I do remember that. So running around with our 300 Fourtraxes, we always played around the snow in second gear. That's all that they can handle. They just don't have enough horsepower is what it is. And then after that, I bought that 2006 Honda Rancher 4x4 with a foot shift, brand new from the factory. And that four-wheeler, I still had to play around with it in only second gear. You could not do third in the snow. And so really, you don't gain a damn thing by going up to the 350 Fourtraxes. The 300s, they actually start better. So if I was you guys and you don't have much money or whatever, I would honestly say that you guys should buy the 300 Fourtrax 4x4 over the 350s. Because the 350s, you won't be able to push snow with them. And like I said, you won't be able to play around snow because they don't start with the crap if you're in the Midwest here and you don't have a heated shock to keep it in. And then I do remember after I traded that one off, I went ahead and I actually went to a racing quad because that's what all my friends had. And there was 8 of us boys that got them. And then in the end, so many of the boys, they either got them wrecked or else they got repossessed by the sheriff. And it was pretty soon in the end, it was only me that had one. So yeah, I sold that off and I missed my 4-wheel drive. So I went ahead and I bought a brand new Honda Rancher 420 4x4 with the foot shift. And that thing, I remember when I first took it out in the snow, I was like, this is amazing. I shifted up to third gear and you could screw around as much as you wanted in third gear. Third gear for that machine is like second gear for the 300s and the 350s. And I've never looked back. That 2008 Honda Rancher 420, they're 15 years now. I mean, I bought it brand new in 2008. Here in 2023, it's still got the brand new tires on it. Or the original battery on it. I've gone through tons of tires on it. And then what else on it? The fuel pump went bad on it one time. It would go into derate mode during the summer when I run it really hard all day long, and I couldn't figure it out. I would have to shift down each gear, and eventually I couldn't even drag itself along, and I'd have to come back in the evening once everything cooled off, and it turned out that it was the fuel pump had an issue, and it was like $135 for a brand new fuel pump. So, yeah, like I said, for all these here, I would say if you guys can get a good deal on the 300 Fourtraxes and that's what you guys can afford, and I realize there is a cult following for the 300s and all of that, they only go, I don't know, probably like 40, 45 miles an hour, some 35. They really are that low geared. So if you guys take them out on the trails, like down to Leeds, South Dakota and stuff like that, you won't be keeping up with all of your buddies that are on dirt bikes and the 420s because they all go like 55 miles an hour. And even those 420 Ranchers have trouble keeping up with them. I believe me, I've tried it. I had to be on it the whole time just to try and keep up with those guys. So yeah, the 300s, if you guys can pick them up for $800 like we did, and even $1,500, I'd say is a fair price. But honestly, I would not pay over $1,500 for a Honda Fourtrax 4x4. Just the price of everything has come down over the years. Because like my 2008 Honda Rancher, even though the 300s, I have nothing bad to say about them, but the 420, that is a game changer. You can shift that. It has the transfer case. You can play around 2-wheel drive or shift into 4x4. They start right up during the winter. They start better than anything out there on the market. My 2008, it does burn a little bit of oil. Like my grandpa's 300 did not burn oil. But I just check it. You know, if I take it on a 40-mile ride, it is on the ad, and I'll just add it. I always just make sure I check it. So yeah, if you guys. And let's see, I just looked on Facebook Marketplace and a guy actually had a 2008 Honda Rancher 4x4 with a foot shift just like mine. He has some cracked up plastic though. His isn't like in mint condition like mine is, but he wanted $3,500 for it. So that's really not that much money, you guys, for a four-wheeler that's going to last you the rest of your lives. So yeah, whichever your price range is, go with that one. They're a horse piece or whatever, but and then also my cousin, he actually 2 years ago he just rebuilt the top end of the engine on one of his buddies' 300 Fourtraxes 4-wheel drives, and I think he said he spent like $80 on it. It was the piston and a brand new jug, the new cylinder, and it ran good after that. And now his buddies, I think that the shifter lever down there, the seal was leaking on it, and they never checked the engine oil, and they ran out of oil, so now it's not running quite right. So it'll need another engine rebuild. And then as for the Honda Fourtrax, or the 420s, like I looked that up on eBay, and just for the parts, you're looking at $600 to $1,000 for all the parts to rebuild the engine. So it's probably definitely cheaper to rebuild the engine on the Fourtrax there. And then as for the parts availability on the 300s, because like I said, I went through Mom's and see what all did I check on it. I checked the fluids. Her engine oil was a little bit low on that one. The guy claimed it had a leak, but I don't think it was actually from that. I think he just didn't add anything to it. He said he didn't do an oil change for 3 years. So we did an oil change on it. I checked the I actually just added oil to the transfer case. I never actually ever checked the engine oil or the oil on our transfer case. I think my stepdad always did that. So I went ahead and I pulled off the cover, and the transfer case is actually completely separate from the engine. There's like a middle drive shaft that runs from the rear of the engine up to your transfer case on the 300 Fourtraxes. And it's a 17 millimeter you screw off the top, and I filled it up, and it filled all the way up or whatever. And I heard there was a check plug on the front, but I actually ended up pulling the wrong plug on it. So it starts spewing out the top or whatever. And I went ahead and I curled underneath there, and sure as heck there is writing. One of the plugs that's part way up says check on it, and the other plug at the bottom says drain. So I drained all of the oil out, no, I didn't even drain it all out. I just pulled out the check plug until it all came down to there. So my mom's like, did you find out what that oil leak was or whatever? Was it low? And I was like, I have no idea. It's like I just added it all the way to the top. So I got it down to that level. Then I pulled the plug on the rear diff on this 95 model of Mom's, and it just looked like tar in there. It was so black and everything, but I just screwed it back on at that point because I wanted to still check the parts before I did any more than that. Then I pulled the front plug, the front diff plug, and I did have to add 80/90 to that one. It says 80 weight, but I mean, who the heck owns any 80 weight? We use 80/90. So I'll put that in there. And you fill that up to the top. And we found out where the oil leak was that the guy had been talking about, because there was a puddle underneath the four-wheeler, and it was the front output shaft coming out of the transfer case on that four-wheel drive four-wheeler. And so I went ahead and I could not find a new output shaft seal for that. So I ended up having to go to the dealer, and that was like $14.99. So after taxes, it was like just under $16. And that was easy to replace. But the front drive shaft, I saw why the seal was worn out, or why it was leaking. It's not called a front drive shaft on Hondas. They call it your front propeller shaft. And it had grooves in it, in the front and the back. So the transfer case one, it had some pretty deep grooves in it. And then the front diff, it had a little bit of a groove, not bad, but I didn't see any oil accumulation around it. And I searched all over eBay, searched on Amazon, did Google searches. I could not find a front propeller shaft. Everybody has discontinued making them, so that sucks. There's tons of them used on eBay, but they've all would have the same problem as my mom's. They're just going to leak it all out too. So we thought about taking the machine shop, but by then I'd already thrown away the seal for the transfer case. And it's got a big, thick inner race in it, a big metal one. And I'd thrown that away in the garbage, and Mom threw it in the dumpster already. And I was kind of weighing my options because I was searching around. I think on Partzilla, I found one place that claimed that they had one. They wanted $521, and they said they had a limited stock. And that's before taxes and before shipping and handling. So the parts availability for certain things for the Honda 300s isn't that great. Honestly, the right way to do it though is to take in the dealer into the machine shop with that inner race seal set. Those guys can build it up with a welder, machine the shaft back down, and make sure that it goes through there. But like I said, ours is thrown away. So what I think we're gonna end up doing is I just topped it back off with 10 weight 40, which is supposed to go in the transfer case, and we're gonna run it. I'm just gonna have Mom check it once a year. And if it ever does get that bad that it starts leaking worse, I'm going to have Mom put 80/90 in it. because I looked on the YouTube videos. All it is two gears. They're the exact same size. One is attached to the rear shaft, and one is attached to your front drive shaft. And so yeah, 80/90 isn't going to hurt the damn thing. So what else when I did the walk around on it? So like I said, I knew that the rear brake pads were bad. That was like $11 or $12 for brand new brake shoes for the back. We thought that it was water in the catch pan that we put underneath there. Just so I wouldn't make a big mess on Mom's concrete there when we parked it overnight, trying to find out where all the oil leaks were. And it turned out it was gasoline. The push plunger on the side of the carburetor, the rubber must have gone bad on that. So I ordered that off eBay. I think I paid like $8.50, and I replaced that, and that fixed that. The rear brake pads, they had tons of pad on them. They looked like new, but they were completely glazed over, like they were metal. I think somebody must have driven it with the park brake on. So I replaced those, and I got the cables adjusted on the back. What else? The rear trunk lid, the rack or whatever. It's got two rubber straps on it. I ordered new ones of those. I think that was like $10. Replaced those. The air filter, it looked good on it or whatever, but it looked clean and everything. And that thing actually split right in half. I ordered a brand new air filter for like $12, and that came with a brand new spark plug and oil filter. And I'm trying to think what else. The headlights worked good on it. Yeah. Oh, handlebar grips. I've actually got the stuff written down on it. Okay, so I remember living out east with my stepdad. We did change out handlebar grips on those 300s one time, and it was a bitch. They are so tight on there, just trying to wiggle them on there and everything. And I remember us kids had so many calluses on our hands. I was like, I don't ever want to do this again, or this sucks or whatever. So I ordered the brand new OEM Honda hand grips for it, and yeah, it was as big of a pain as it ever was. I went ahead and I took a channel locks pliers on it to wiggle them back and forth. I pushed on the end of them, and I did that for how long until I got them on. But yeah, I got calluses all over my hands from replacing each of those. And the reason we had to replace them is that the people that had before us, they put dirt bike grips on it, and they have a really wide flange on the front, so you couldn't press in your throttle lever all the way to get full RPMs out of it. So yeah. But yeah, I got all that stuff replaced. I think it was like, I think Mom has $1,200 into it total now, with the gas money of the pickup to go pick it up, and with all the parts there. So, and then I did change the front diff fluid here in the end now too. So, but yeah, the things I replaced on it, Mom's for maintenance were, okay, the new carburetor primer bulb, the pressed on the side, like I said, that was leaking gas out. I bought a new air filter for it. And the carburetor primer bulb, that was $7.27. The brand new air filter, that one I got the cheapest one I could, and it actually came with a spark plug and an oil filter. And that was $11.65. The two trunk rubbers were $10.18. The two hand grips that are Honda brand were $17.12 total. The rear brake shoes were $11.07. And then the battery box cover was missing off of it. And you can actually order those brand new off of eBay too, and that was $32.09. And then the other things that we got set up with was I got the big bottle of slime or whatever. So when you have older weather rotted tires, because Mom's tires, even though they got good tread, they do have a lot of weather rot on them, and it's got the pump on it and the hose that you just hook up to your valve stem. And that was like $29 before taxes. We got the 2-inch ball for the back of it. It uses a 3/4 inch shaft ball that you hook your tow rope on to pull it yourself out all the time. We bought 30 tire plugs from Menards, the big pack, and that was like $6.50 before taxes. We got the can of tire cement. It's probably like that tall. Don't remember how much I paid for that. Probably like $6.50, maybe around $5. The tire plug repair kit, Mom didn't own one of those, with the reamer and the one for inserting the plug into there. Got red silicone for it, just in case I would have had to split that transfer case to pull that front diff seal out, but I didn't have to do that. How I actually ended up pulling it out was I got a crow's foot on it, and I tried pulling out, but there's some middle shaft that's still in there, and I didn't want to bend it or mess up the bearings is what I was actually worried about. So I went ahead and I took kind of an old flathead screwdriver that's kind of dull on the ends, all rounded out and everything, and I pounded it on one side of the steel where it meets the case, just kind of trying to deform it, and then I pounded up on another side, just kind of trying to make it so it takes up less room in its core, and then I was able to actually twist it out of there with a pry bar or crow's foot. And then to pound that seal in, I'm trying to think here. Actually, I didn't even need to use seal drivers on it, you guys. That seal is kind of soft, and I was actually able to press it probably halfway into the bore without doing that. And then I just took a rubber mallet and I just pounded around it, and it went all the way in. So that don't be afraid of changing out your front output shaft seal. They're really easy. Oh, I did adjust the clutch on it, and that was an easy job too. That's on the left hand side. But yeah, it's it runs good now, and like I said, Mom's into it like less than $1,200. So yep, great four-wheelers, and this, I'm sure this Honda Fourtrax 300 four-wheel drive is gonna last my mom the rest of her life. So all right, take care, you guys.